ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaskar, my dear friends. This is video number 11 on the wonders of human mind. This video starts with esoteric role of the pineal gland. This is known as third eye also or Shivnetra also. The mystic functions of the unconscious mind, aura of one's vital energy and inner strength do not depend on the condition and activities of the gross body. The same is true of the functioning on the endocrine systems and hence of the transmission of the hereditary genetic information, the development of an embryo and the enormous potentials of the cells too. Through research in anatomy and physiology of human body has been able to provide only partial information about some of these aspects. Such specificity, which cannot be explained in terms of the in vivo biochemical reactions, is considered to be associated with the subtle and astral bodies. Elucidation of the vast field of this deep knowledge and realization of the associated intrinsic properties and functions has been the focus of spiritual experiments, sadhana, since the time of yore. Modern science too has begun to search for the subtle aspects of the above mentioned characteristics of human life. Experts of neurochemistry consider the pineal and the pituitary glands to be the most important glands in the endocrine system. The hormones like androgen secreted by the pituitary gland are found to control not only the sex-related activities but also the capabilities of the decision-making, soundness of thinking, and space-time based perceptions of an individual. The sambandhs of Yoga Vidya associate the pituitary gland with the topmost extrasensory center, chakra of etheric energy, namely the Sahasrara chakra. The consciousness of an individual is described to be linked with the omnipresent supreme consciousness through the medium of Sahasrara. The pineal gland is considered to be the linkage between the body and the mind. Renowned French philosopher René Descartes describes this gland as the connection between the Jada, material components of the body, and the Chetana, conscious powers of the mind. Divine consciousness inspires one mind through this center. Anatomically, the pineal gland happens to be the smallest functional component of the human body. This tiny gland is conical in shape like a granule of gram. It is about 0.25 inch long and weighs around 100 milligram. This gland is located between the cerebellum and thalamus and is connected with the upper layer of the third ventricle. Interestingly, this gland, which was until recently considered by the modern scientists as an unnecessary component in the human body and was attributed as a remnant of the early phase of evolution of the human body, has now become the major focus of frontline research on human brain. Melatonin, a hormone. Melatonin, a hormone secreted by the pineal gland, is supposed to react with darkness and thereby maintain the circadian Biorhythms which are associated with the cyclic transition of day and night. It is also found that this hormone affects the activities of the neurons, which participate in controlling the process of sleeping. Sensitivity to light appears to be its main property that has been tested in several laboratories. This property is remarkably consonant with the linkage between the pineal gland and the Agya Chakra, third eye, as described in the scriptures on yoga sadhana. A Greek physiologist, Herophibus, had described sometime in 400 BC this gland as the center of restraining power which controlled the flow of thoughts. Seers of esoteric knowledge have also found it as the center of origin and source of orderly expression of discerning intelligence. Modern scholars too consider it as a center of divine potentials. The size of the pineal gland is bigger in children as compared to that in the adults. Among adults, women who are in general emotionally more sensitive than men are found to have bigger pineal glands than that of a man. Sir Alexander Kennan had presented the essence of his research in the dissertation titled The Power Within. He writes that the pineal gland of compassionate and spiritually elevated personalities is usually more developed and bigger. Every human is free from the entangling thaldoms of ego, selfishness, and worldly affairs in the childhood. Very few people enjoy the same purity of inner self, fairness, and truth of mind in the later phases of life. This is the reason why in most people the pineal gland shrinks gradually as they cross the edges of childhood. One's emotional level has great impact on the development and activities of this gland. Dr. Cruikshank's research work has made significant contribution in identifying the effects of the endocrine glands on physiology and psychology. He calls these as magical glands. In his view, the physical and mental health of an individual and his inherent tendencies could be assessed in terms of the level and pattern of hormonal secretions in his endocrine system. The pineal and pituitary glands are termed as the master glands because of their predominant role in the endocrine system. The functions of pineal gland were partly recognized by the medical scientists as long as 400 BC. The Greek thinker Herophibus, who was known at the time for his analysis of some physiological functions, had also expressed views on the role of this gland. However, in the absence of visible identification of this gland, his views had raised controversies. He had described this gland as the regulator of the thought process. For him, this gland was like a link between the physiological and mental functions. Dr. S. W. Graft and Dr. E. Waldwin Spencer, both anatomists, had carried out research on the pineal gland in the late 19th century. Their results showed that this gland responds to the optical signals light rece- received directly from the surroundings or transmitted through the nervous system as perceived by the eyes. This finding resembles with the interpretations of the third eye described in the yoga scriptures. Major results of the modern research on the pineal gland concern the extraction and analysis of the hormones melatonin and serotonin secreted by this gland. These have elucidated some latent features of the gross body which were unknown until recently. Around the middle of this century, in 1958, Dr. Morton B. Lerner of the Yale Medical School had extracted melatonin from the secretions of the pineal gland. This hormone is found to be responsible for photoreactive effects of change in the skin color of frogs and fishes. In humans, it is considered to regulate emotional changes and excitations generated by fear and anger. The secretions of this hormone plays very important role in puberty during the commencement of teenage. As the child passes through this transition period, the size of the pineal reduces gradually and the charge of controlling the sex-related hormonal secretions is transferred to the pituitary gland. As stated earlier, the master gland pineal is considered to be directly connected with the Agya Chakra, third eye. Awakening of Agya Chakra results in rousing viveka, prudence, discreet intelligence, righteous thinking, and divine insight. If a person channelizes his creative talents and virtuous potentials with the sport of viveka, then he can reach up to the diamonds and pearls of the hidden treasure of the unconscious mind. Awakened Agya Chakra purifies and illuminates the mana, buddhi, chitta, and ahankara. This is fundamental step in the sadhana of Manomaya Kosha. The mention in Puranas of the burning of Kamdeva because of the opening of the third eye of Lord Shiva is an allegoric representation. It implies that opening, activation of the subtle center of the pineal gland controls the erogenous secretions from the pituitary and thus restrains stimulation of the genitals. It also implies that the agile giant of mind can be restrained and refined by the sadhanas of opening of the Agya Chakra and the consequent spark of Viveka. Refinement of the power of this center and the interlinked functional units of the master glands of the endocrine system opens up the ways of sublime transformation. The vast difference between the wretched, vile, and the elevated, elite level of personalities arise respectively from the underdeveloped or waned and the actively refined states of the center. This is because the activities of the center shape the mental status, attitude, and flow of thoughts of a person, which in turn govern his deeds. Renowned psychiatrist Dr. Daniel Kahneman has separated another hormone from the brain tissues. This hormone, named serotonin, is densely present in the pineal gland and the junction cells. The pineal gland is a reservoir of serotonin which is distributed by the junction cells to the other parts of the body. Further research work has shown that serotonin is an elementary form of melatonin and that its richness activates reasoned thought process. Another significant result was that the atomic structure of the serotonin matches with that of LSD-25 lysergic acid Thylamide, a narcotic drug which is prepared by the extraction from a grass called rye. Small amount of LSD induces intense intoxicating effects on the conscious mind. The hippies consuming it for what they consider a spiritual joy. The medical experts, on the other hand, advise against its use because this drug can neutralize the activation of serotonin, the so-called feeling of attainment of higher levels of consciousness by consuming LSD is an artificial and illusive state of mind because the suppression by LSD of the activities of serotonin blocks the natural flow of thoughts and one feels thoughtless as if one is in a state of trance. This chemically induced suppression of brain functions is risky as it prevents the natural hormonal processing and thereby destroys the harmony between the brain, mind, and the body. The pineal gland is considered to be the gross center for the manifestation of consciousness that regulates the cycle of the biochemical activities in an individual. The spiritual level of one's consciousness has a direct impact on the regulatory activities of the pineal and pituitary glands, especially on their roles in inducing and controlling the emotional and physical functions associated with sex. The greater the natural control of pineal on pituitary and the collective control of both on the genitals, the more becomes the possibility of awakening of the otherwise dormant centers of consciousness inside the body and the corresponding rise in one's spiritual potentials to attain sublime levels of chetana. Appropriation of the serotonin concentration and naturally harmonious control over its activity is a challenging task which is essential for spiritual achievements. The excessive level of serotonin triggered by erogenous thoughts in the individuals inspires the vicious cycle of mutually supporting activities driven by concupiscence and related endocrine secretions and leads to fast decline in the possibilities of spiritual evolution. The yoga is a systematic method for focused awakening of the pineal gland followed by natural control over the entire endocrine system. Every human being is bound within the world created by his own emotions, thoughts, and deeds. His character is the creation of his internal world too. It is in his own hands to come out of the barriers which block the empowerment and sublimation of his consciousness, reflected in the functions of his brain and body. The sadhana of opening of the Agya Chakra have direct positive impact on the pineal gland and hence on the endocrine system too. The success of these sadhanas arouses one's viveka and induces elevated flow of his prana. The life histories of great personalities across the world show that they were empowered by the internal energy of the Chetan, and they had used their talents for higher ideals with the help of their radiant Viveka. As a result, their lives were endowed with such accomplishments that can be compared with divine boons. So I conclude this video at this point. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Thank you my dear friends. Next video number 12 will start with the topic the subtle effects of the pituitary gland. Thank you. Namaskar.